evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to the June 9th, 2025 policy meeting, and this time I'll call the meeting to order. And I believe thank you very much. Today we are going to start with IHAF, Arts Education. And I apologize, it may be in this order somewhere. I would have posted it, but I thought we would be able to do it. So IHAF is an older policy. It has not been updated since 2001. So the updates here are to reflect the change in the structure of policy, as well as providing a little more information to the policy here. I don't think that there was anything particularly earth-shattering. Are you moving something from IHAP to that? Like, together. This small. Crosswalk. There's a policy that you have.
Okay, we weren't sure about the sound in here, so we will use a microphone, maybe see it there though, see if that works. That still work? Okay, let me know if I actually have to hold it. Any questions about IHAF, Arts Education?
This is model policy.
This is all from the model policy.
And did we have any district recommendations, or are you good with it?
Next up, we have IHAG, Music Education. This is also one that had not been updated since 2001. Again, we are updating the structure here as well as some of the content. This one, I will just clarify, this might be what you were thinking of, Ms. Bates, is that some of the information in the first paragraph is reiterated in the second paragraph. But because of the significant changes, I just marked it all out and placed the new context there.
Okay. And model. See?
Yes, this is all from the model. There were a few blanks to fill in about the ages where you stop requiring music as part of the curriculum and it becomes an elective. So we just filled that in line with our district structure.
Which is over from 6.
They mandate that we offer art and music until the 6th grade.
Do any districts ever do it after like 5th grade as like a requirement? Not just an elective? I guess you have the requirements of high school.
We don't technically have a requirement in South Carolina for fine arts as a graduation credit, but it is a requirement if you want to attend a state college that you have a fine arts credit. So we don't require it, but we do recommend it highly.
Recommended or?
I don't believe that it specifically says it's recommended. It says that the district will provide it on an elective basis in each grade 6 through 12. But it doesn't specifically address that it's recommended. I think that's something that's typically addressed through the IGP process.
Good. I have no other questions.
Okay. Next.
Yep.
Next, we have IHBF, homebound instruction. This is also a policy that had not been updated since 2001. And as Ms. Bates referenced, this is one where there was previously an administrative rule, IHBFR. And we are recommending that the rule be deleted and that language be incorporated into the policy. And you can see from the recommended changes in the policy that the language has already been incorporated there, with the additional change in bullet point 2 to expand physician to include physician's assistant or APRN, which is in line with a change in the law that actually occurred several years ago. But this was not updated to match, although for information, we have been approving students who had medical homebound forms assigned by those personnel, but we want to align the policy so that it matches as well.
And is there a reason you wanted to use student policy? Or?
In the model policy, it is done that way. And as you might recall, we've been trying to remove the rule in some of the cases where the rule doesn't provide as much context as seems necessary to maintain an administrative rule. So we were just moving it over into the policy. We can certainly keep it separate if you would like. The content is fairly similar from what we already had in the administrative rule, but because it is not an expansive rule, we recommended aligning it with the model policy and moving it into the policy itself.
I think that's fine.
And just for information, we did sort of reevaluate our medical homebound process a couple of years ago and developed a committee. And so the committee has been functioning for a few years now and has sort of found our feet. I think we've sort of revamped some of the process and plan to make a few more changes this year in terms of training for staff to make sure that everybody is aware of what the expectations are for medical homebounds. Any questions about the policy or the rule?
Do you, I'm looking at reading it now, do you need to reference the committee in any way, shape, or?
No, I don't believe so, because when students turn in their form, it would just be turned into the superintendent or their designee, which is the committee. So they actually turn it in at their school, and then it comes to the districts. But that's more of an internal process to how we process applications.
Anybody has some questions?
Great. Next, we have the administrative rule JICJ-R, which is possession, use of personal electronic devices or district-owned devices. This is the policy regarding cell phone use on campus. And we were asked to bring this policy back to committee to consider a change in the bullet points for authorized use times for high school students. So you will see the potential proposed language there. I know that Mr. Doherty had some conversations and Ms. Barker with our high school principals who this would primarily affect earlier today. And you all have received some of that information. So I'll leave that open to the committee to discuss.
So I know you mentioned a survey that went out. I do think that the changes that we're looking at seem to be generalized enough. You can correct me if I'm wrong, give me any feedback, that I feel like it would still give the autonomy to really figure out, based on that feedback, how and where the storage would happen, whether it's backpacks or going back to the pouches, as it does say area designated by superintendent, right? Do we need to say area designated by superintendent or his designee? Like if we're, I guess no, I shouldn't say that, because that would allow each school to do something different. So we do.
Correct. You know, that called principals today had a lot of success in the first semester, the way we did it with pouches. Teachers liked it that way. They knew the devices were there. But then when they actually got the policy came out from the state, it was more stringent with ILT and during between classes. So we were just talking about discipline. And we looked at our 3 high schools and heard the top 3 infractions for all 3 high schools for cell phone violations. So I know that they thought the first semester was better than the second semester. Just to let everybody know that it's a survey that was sent out that we just kind of found out that was sent out about 6-7 weeks ago to some of our principals, assistant principals about this policy. And so kind of wondering if some tweaks or changes to this policy by the state, because they were wondering this feedback. So
Was the survey from the state?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, interesting.
yeah, it was just random. So it didn't go to every administrator. And so it may have gotten Dr. Robbins's email because I didn't receive it. So we don't know. So,
I would hate to like not address our policy based on the possibility that they could do something and then not have this go forward for the start of the school year. Again, I agree. I think from the feedback I've heard, first semester was more successful with enforcement, especially with the consistent pouches in the classroom. First, the ILT kind of, I know we talked about different ways to look at that. And I think while changing the verbiage to this, that still allows you to have those conversations with your principals on the ILT and how we're going to move forward with that. Does anybody else feel like it doesn't, or if you understand what I'm saying? I don't want to like put out there any specifics on how it would be used or not used during ILT until that's decided upon by district admin, but
They were.
Yeah. Because it's give or take. Yes, we're protecting instruction, but we're gonna give you this time, so you won't feel like you have to be late. For last day, then you have to sneak off, because you know you're gonna get those breaks, not make them.
no, I think this is, I mean, really, just that little tweak in our policy, I think is great. I think that gives us that flexibility. And then we can make sure we're all consistent with our high school.
and still be in compliance, because again, our ILT is a time for furtherance of instruction, so utilizing that. Utilize that time and be in compliance, I think there's some opportunity there, so I think if we update it this way, that gives you that ability to figure that out, get that messaging in.
Yeah, I agree. No, I feel comfortable.
I just don't want to do anything like if it's gonna handicap y'all, but I do think.
No, I think this is great because it's not. I think that to make us make sure we're more consistent, and so no, I think it's great.
Anybody else have any feedback?
One question that I wanted to pose is that we say at the bottom of the first page under high school students, it says high school students must keep their personal electronic devices stored in an area designated by the superintendent. But then underneath the bullet points, we have the additional paragraph that talks about having a storage device in the classroom where students place their personal electronic devices. If I'm hearing that clearly, it's underneath the bullet point. The first paragraph there. So if I am hearing that we are revisiting that, perhaps we want to write this, that second paragraph and jumping it at the area designated by the superintendent.
Thank you.
So even if we are going back to the storage device in the classroom, that would be done operationally.
Correct.
Is that in case? And that communication would come from you. Would that go, we just need to make sure that once
Once we get this done and they gear up. I will get studies. Again, we've heard parents, we've heard them talk about, and it has been an inconvenience, especially, when you're looking at the ILT and.
yeah, and we knew that we were gonna have to look at this and we get it. And removing things. Find the one. And the 5 minute paragraph.
Thank you.
Last consideration today is GBEBA staff dress code. This is being presented at the request of the board. There were no recommendations coming from the administration. We're happy to answer any questions.
You're also, and then I'll happy to turn it over to you. I know this is something myself, perhaps actually I want to throw you on this lesson, but it wasn't you last year, but in policy committee, we looked at essentially what we were looking at is allowing teams. And I know based on feedback, some school administration and just personnel, and they do like utilizing that as a reward mechanism for teachers. I know I share the opinion, it's just my opinion that I think we need to find other rewards. I think that in today's world, there's ways we can incentivize teachers, a little bit old fashioned in the sense of allowing them to wear jeans. So that was kind of my perspective. I let that kind of go last year and then you brought it up and wanted it brought to me. So I wanted to just be able to share your feedback as well. Because I've always felt like I knew exactly what I could wear. I knew it was appropriate. I wasn't worried about the weather, dressing t-shirts on to day, sweet stuff. So I understand that it's a great incentive. I just do feel like never changed my teaching abilities, and so I was up to be able to offer that to people. More comfortable, of course, within the boundaries. Again, with being an incentive, I know some other ideas. So I don't want to bring them up to the table right now, but that are free. So. And I agree with you in the sense of we are fighting to recruit and retain educators. And I think, it is a little bit rigid and outdated. I think it sends a message that teachers aren't treated as professionals, that are capable of making that decision a little bit. And there's like feedback I've gotten from our teachers throughout. But I also understand, wanting to have these things. So, studying my dear friend that I was talking to, she's one of the girls that did not participate. She's not even thinking for herself, and I was like, that's a great idea. I love it. I get it, and especially when you teach sociology, so if you have a recommendation, I know there was we talked about specifying like types of jeans and like maybe putting some lotions on it. Open to leaving it as it is, open to, if it's the will of the committee as a whole, to asking it out with allowing to. Just your feedback. Committee is anybody? No. And I don't know.
Well, as far as the district, and listen to administration talk, a lot of it, when you start going into jeans and specifics and other things they have to manage, whether it's bell bottoms, tears and jeans, those things, it's another thing to manage. I did like the idea of giving opportunities for staff to wear them.
Let's say they do have a jeans, like a jeans. Are they managing jeans then anyways?
They are one day, but not every. So you're really has put a lot more just listening to some of their comments on that. I think there were some things about leggings, things like that. What is appropriate? What's not?
Leggings are
right, and jeans. So I think those are some things talking about. With some of the jeans, they just thought it was a good thing to be offered as an incentive option rather than not allow jeans to take off and being professional, being treated as a professional, dressed as a professional. Community, and felt like it kind of pressed things down.
I mean, I know you said someone missing it. I haven't heard very much feedback about this recently. So I don't know if I just, because I do feel like in the past over the years, but I don't know that. I guess I'm not really sure. Like, is it that big of a deal? Teachers, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know really that it's.
Well, something else I'm hearing is like so you really allow jeans all the time. You have some schools that allow jeans with a ticket. You have some schools that allow Friday jeans with a school shirt or jeans with a dress shirt. And so I think from feedback I've heard when just talking about bringing holiday is why does that school get And how come they have jeans Friday all the time and our school doesn't? Why do I have to earn jeans and they just get to wear jeans? And like, I have to like do something to be able to wear jeans and they just have autonomy and trust. And I think if we are going to be serious about keeping it where we're not allowing jeans, then it has to be consistently enforced across the district. But I don't think that that's the right answer either, because I think principals should have autonomy and I do think that they are policing jean wear when they allow it anyways. I mean, you're not gonna show up, they're professionals, I think every teacher knows, that's right. They'll show up with holes or sagging pants, and they don't have to show up in a mini skirt. It's gonna be addressed. You can't have, parts hanging out, you can't have spaghetti straps.
But I will say, if we're saying they're professional, I mean, honestly, just looking at the other side, jeans are not really.
It can be now, like, but the shoe and top, and so that's our.
Yes, I agree, it could be, but I don't think that's what. it's saying about. You know what I mean? Not what we're open. So I'm just putting out the other side of it. I think we are looking to try to create professional.
Then I think, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but then if that is the goal, I don't wanna like police the district, but then it is hard to justify, the difference. You can take one. Are you good with discussing further, getting some more information, keeping it on?
Instead of have a discussion.
I mean, I would be interested in hearing. Truthfully, I can't remember the last time I heard from a teacher asking, mentioning him. That's just the truth. But it could be that I just haven't heard it. I mean, I'm sure that's possible.
We do it. I think it's beneficial to have the for sure. And I don't ever want them to feel like we're trying to undermine they want, need, but I also think it's like, that's stuff we brought up in the task force. I think that's we take that out. If there is desire how to be and have that, then we can bring it down for positive range from other solutions.
But. So I think this was one area. You don't want to be.
Probably a little uncomfortable.
You call.
Very that's probably very.
And I'll take it a step further. It also, like, really depends on body some. I mean, that's the truth. Like, what,
I mean, dress no matter what.
that's a very, I agree. I can see how that would be a very.
Then we also decisions to be kids. Well, and I don't know, it is, so I'm not against getting more feedback. And figuring out if there's.
Say to the teacher here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would be.
I think to hear from the teachers too,
So yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a great conversation to revisit. I'm completely open,
I don't think that I think they're like, there's so many.
gotta have the right.
That's all for sure, yeah.
I will go to bat for y'all who love teams.
All right, I think that's all we had, right?
That's correct, and so we will hold that one. And rest of our words is back on. We had not scheduled one in July.
We certainly can. The next scheduled board meeting in July is July 28th, which is right before the start of the school year.
That's the one that we mentioned.
That's the day we're having our.
Yes, that retreat, also the day of the retreat, so, I mean, we certainly could pick a day that it's not a board meeting day, a policy meeting, or we could wait and restart it.
We need a 2 readings, right? So
Yes.
that would be.
If we were able to have another policy meeting.
That is out.
Oh, you can see there?
Policy.
Is anybody against doing one like?
What we got?
I'm trying to think so we didn't have to do it when we did order. This is all going on with the
I mean, I think people. Take on that, but I'm fine either way.
Do you have anything else?
Well, I mean, if you want to do it.
I like that.
I think that's.
We will schedule that one and then we will.
Still back on the schedule.
Questions, concerns, we need, no, there's no public comment, so.